Hey JC, thanks for coming on to Social Dream Machine. I'm excited to have you. The creator kind of economy is a bit of a newer thing. So how long have you been in the creator journey and how did you get into it?
Yeah, I've been on my creator journey for about a year now, I would say. I started writing on Twitter roughly a year ago.
What made you want to get into that? Was it you saw some people making money or just having fun, or what was like kind of some of the end goal?
I was looking for some type of online business to start, and I had, I think, gone down the same path of a lot of people who watch some Dan Co videos. And at the time, he was really pushing hard, like, just get on Twitter and start writing. So started my Twitter account up. I met some really awesome people. And yeah,
I'm assuming LinkedIn is your main social and Twitter. How long did it take you to monetize on those channels, and what was like the first product? Was something to do with newsletters, or maybe talk a little bit about your business as well?
we help founders and business owners start or, you know, run their existing lists. So I uh, started my business back in November, and my first real paid client wasn't until um, March, I think. So about 4 months between when I really had everything set up. I had done some free work in between there and my first paid client, but it was a high ticket offer, I guess. It was $1,000 for my first client that I got paid for. So
How long were you like advertising, or were you like writing a lot of content like on newsletters for a while, or like how did you like make straight up offers, or how did you end up like getting the first client?
I had actually just switched over to LinkedIn. Went I started in LinkedIn the end of January with like 10 followers. And I had moved over from Twitter. I think I had 1,200 over there at that point, but I felt like Twitter wasn't really getting me the results that I wanted. So with my content, and I had some of our friends had been over at LinkedIn for a while. They're like, it's great over here. Your stuff, you can use it pretty much the same way. So me and a few friends moved over there and started writing on LinkedIn every day. And about, I would say, a month and a half in, I had commented on my potential client's post, and they actually reached directly out to me and was like, "Can you tell me more about your service? I'm really interested. We need somebody to write our newsletter." And then we hopped on a couple calls and closed the deal. So, but I will say, like, my profile is very much set up to have someone who is problem aware know that I can solve their problem. So I generally get one or two people a week who will reach out to me with either questions about newsletters or questions about what I do, just because people who land on it, whether I'm commenting on their stuff, they very quickly understand what I do.
It seems like newsletters, people probably see the value of it. Do you think that's the case? It's already kind of like a known thing, so it's not like you're having to tell people like what the value is of newsletters. It's more like, hey, this is what I do. Here's how I could help you. And I've spoke to you before. It's a done for you, right? The newsletter, or you have different variations of it, or how do you look at that part of it?
I have two kind of parts to my offer. If somebody doesn't need me to continue writing for them, like, I'll just come in and set the newsletter up, and we'll create a growth plan for how they can continue to run it. If they're a really good writer, maybe they have, somebody else that does their writing, but they just need the technical side, or, landing pages design. Like, I just put it all together. And then I write on retainer as well.
It seems to me like that a lot of people know the value like of a newsletter, like why they would want one, and like why. But in general, it seems like maybe you're not having to explore that as much, and you're probably more kind of having to just kind of either the person knows how to write or they don't know how to write. I assume, right? So then sometimes maybe they'll want to write their own newsletter, and you kind of help them maybe set up the process and kind of. I guess, is it done for you or done with you, or is it kind of a combination of both depending on the person?
Newsletters are very well known, and that they produce good results. So most people have an understanding that they probably need one. They just don't have either the time or the know how to invest in starting one. So, with some of the things on my profile, and like, that's my main target, is somebody who is problem aware. And that's where a lot of my copywriting goes and my posts. So when I'm having a discussion with someone, it's not that I necessarily have to convince them as much why they need a newsletter. They probably already know that. So it's much easier to step into, okay, how do we create this thing to be something successful? And I'm finding I'm really more on the done for you side, because there's really what I don't want to do. I want to make sure that they have enough time to do, and that is like managing their social media or managing their organic traffic side of it. Um, so I really try to do as much as possible where they're giving me the content for the newsletter and the stories. Like I have a pretty robust interview system where I understand what their voice is. And then what I do from that is I create months worth of content, and then it can be repurposed on their top of funnel, whatever it is. So yeah, it's a lot more done for you than done with you.
How do you find like the voice of the person too? And like, how do you know like what to write for each like newsletter out of curiosity? Because that seems like it'd be kind of difficult from your perspective. Like, on how do you kind of figure out like what to write about? Or do you like meet with them or like chat with them, or how does that work?
A lot of times for me, it's I'm listening to like their voice and how they're actually speaking. And then I'm taking that and taking their specific stories that we're going to write into the newsletter to support whatever offer they're, you know, out there. If it's coaching, like we're going to pick out the stories where whatever you're using at the time, maybe it's a like focus technique. We're going to pick that out. You're going to share a little bit with me, and then from that, I'm going to add things, whether it's what I've read from your existing content, whether it's something I picked up during the call. Those things, when you're trying to really write in somebody's voice, it's translating who they are as a person and those specific stories into that type of conversational writing that people want to read.
It seems like everything's a lot story driven these days too. Was that nerve wracking as a creator though, trying to figure that out in the beginning? Because I feel like we're always solving new problems, I guess, when we're creating offers. But one thing that I always like worry about is like, am I able to actually like deliver this thing that, and like figuring out the deliverability part of it, of anything new, is always like a little bit overwhelming at first. Has it changed a lot the way you've thought about it, like onboarding people over time, or is it sort of were you nervous at all, I guess, like whether or not like you were going to be able to pull off what they wanted at first? Because I feel like I have a lot of second guessing when I'm starting something new.
I had a really incredible first experience with setting up a newsletter for someone, and they worked with me incredibly well. So I was able to get a lot of information from that first person that I originally set up, um, for free, that helped me make sure what I was doing was right, and that what I was writing was in their voice, how the designs were going. Um, that really reinforced that the way that I have my onboarding system, it works really great. So that really streamlines it, because the way that I have it set up isn't that we have to have a ton of meetings. Like it's one or two big ones in the beginning. And then from that, we can talk back and forth really easily. And it just makes okay, I'm going to get this newsletter to about 95% of the way. And then you tell me what else, you think needs done.
If it's like a once a week thing, you usually send it to them like a couple days or like a day before or something and say, hey, do you need any changes, that type of thing? Or how does that work?
No, usually I do a month at a time, so then it can get scheduled out, and then we can make sure that all the additions are done. That way, it also allows me to produce that top of funnel content as well that we pull out of the newsletter. So those posts that you can say, hey, if you want to read the rest of this, subscribe to the newsletter. It's coming out on Saturday, that kind of stuff. So when you are able to schedule out that far, it makes it way easier to pull that other content that you really need to support the newsletter, especially if you're doing it organically.
How do you think about like which content to create for like a newsletter? Like what do you like when you're going through like I don't like when you're writing your newsletter each week, like what are you thinking? Is it just something that came up like the last couple of weeks or like something that you want to hit on? Or like how do you suggest that creators like what should they focus on when they are creating their newsletters, like the topics and the themes?
The first thing that I always think is, what quick win can I get for my subscribers? And that could relate to my offer. It could relate to something that is in a certain story that I've read from the creator, or when I'm ghostwriting. I very much lean on shorter newsletters that are very relatable. So if you can add a short story into whatever is going to be that quick win for that person, they're much more likely to come back and read the next time.
Stories are super powerful. I don't yeah, the more I there's a couple posts that I made this week and like I tried to like have a few more stories in some of the posts that I wrote and the ones that had the stories did significantly better, but sometimes those stories are hard to remember or to pull out of myself at times. Do you have any like strategies or like how do you record your stories? Are you thinking about them as they happen or do you have a way of like knowing oh like that's a good moment I should remember that for like my like newsletter or is this happened as a result of like just doing it over time?
You definitely get better as you get more practice with it. I like to work from the end and go back. So I usually, if I'm picking out a certain theme, or I know, like, okay, this week I'm going to address, what it's like to face your fears or something, I'm going to pick out a story that helps me remember. Like, I'm going to think of a specific example that I may have used for, facing my fears, right? So it's easier to write a newsletter when you know the direction that you're taking it. And then it's a lot easier to think if you sit there and think like, okay, these are all the examples of when this has happened. Let me write a few of these down, and then I can either expound on them, find a different angle, maybe ask AI what ideas that it has and where I could take it. That's really useful too. Yeah, those are usually my strategies when I'm writing newsletters, especially if I have them planned out for a month.
Is there a word length that you recommend or like a read time like 5 minutes 10 minutes or is it it seems like most newsletters that I read are probably I don't know maybe like a 5 minute read. Does that sound about right to you?
I highly recommend staying under 500 words for any creators that aren't established, because anything over that is a lot to ask of someone. And it also helps you refine either your copywriting or refines your storytelling. And you want to try to cut out as much fluff as possible. So generally, I try to write newsletters that are in the 300 to 600, 700 word range. If they're longer, it's usually because there's either another announcement that I'm making or sharing some sort of social proof, a testimonial. It just depends on, is that the one newsletter a month I'm going to send with a CTA, and an offer. It really just depends on the newsletter itself.
How do you look at like actually offering the actual offer and the dollar exchange, the money amount? Because that's something that I've always struggled with because obviously like you want to charge a rate that you can make a living off of and then people are happy with, but you also there's like this fine line to toe, I guess, as far as like what to charge. Like how did you know what to charge or did you kind of just wing it at first? I think you'd mentioned you'd work for free, which I did as well at first, but in general, after you work for free and you get some sort of social proof, how do you know what to charge?
So I started at 1,000 a month and for my first offer, and I was pretty comfortable with that at the time. And it's gone up from there. And I think the more clients that you get and the more experience that you get, you absolutely should charge more. And this is another way that you can go about it, is if you go and talk to, other people, you talk to business owners about your offer, and they may or may not need it, but they're going to tell you whether it's reasonable or not. And I had quite a few people tell me that I was very undervalued for what I was doing.
That's good. That's a good sign. And what does that include? Is it like 4 newsletters or how does that, what does the package usually look like?
Yeah, so it's not $1,000 anymore, but it's a month's worth of content. I'm setting up your newsletter in Beehive or ConvertKit, doing the landing page, all the domain work, email template, um, writing a welcome sequence, help you create a lead magnet or pull a lead magnet from whatever you have, and then creating that growth plan, whether that's going to be paid acquisition for subscribers or organic. We're going to make a really good plan around it.
What is a good way to capture subscribers? You think lead magnets is still probably one of the better ways to get new subscribers?
I think unless you have a really huge reputation and like people are just interested in consuming your content anyway, I think having a lead magnet is probably the the only way to use organic efficiently. And even paid, really, you should have a lead magnet as well.
What are some lead magnets that you have made in the past or that you suggest making?
It really depends on the audience, and I do a ton of research as well to figure out what the best lead magnet is going to be for that audience specifically, because a lead magnet that works well for a coach may not work at all for a real estate firm. Like, that's the thing with email, is you have to do a lot of research on who you're talking to so that you can connect that person that you're writing in their voice to that person that they're writing to. So it's always like, how can I better understand my customer's customer?
So how do you do the research? Then you just go and dig into like see where maybe some of these like coaches clients might hang out, or if they're a real estate person, like where their real estate clients hang out, that type of thing.
I usually look for other publications in that niche as well to understand like what is the general consensus on what works and what doesn't. And then I'll a lot of times go on Twitter or Reddit. When I'm doing research, I spend quite a bit of time on Reddit, just exploring different subjects that are in the niche and figuring out what those pain points are for that consumer or the person that's on the list, and then kind of compiling those into one place to understand, okay, this person is really probably thinking about this.
Like what makes actually like a good offer in your eyes? It seems to me like the more I've studied it over like the last, I don't know, several months, like it seems like definitely like clarity and like maybe some sort of like worry free type thing, or like a money back guarantee, or something in general. I don't know what it is, but it just seems like there's definitely not all offers are created equal for sure. Like what is your thoughts on like what makes like a good offer?
I think a good offer is something that the other person can't resist. So I I tend to stay away from guarantees, and some people are probably going to really wonder about me, but like, here's the thing with the guarantee is you're either using it to try to force that person to trust you, because if you offer, oh, you get all your money back if this doesn't work, like, those probably aren't the people that you want to work for anyway. My best clients have always been ones that, like, I came in way under budget for. If what you're doing is inherently valuable and you understand how to convey that to the person that wants to hire you, then it's less about, oh, what goes wrong, and more about, I'm going to get you the outcome that you want to see, So also, it leads me to think, okay, who am I actually talking to, and who do I actually want to work for? Is it the person that makes 100,000 and this is going to be a real stretch for them for me to do what they want to do? Or is it, a business that's making $2 million a year, and this budget that I'm going to be able to succeed really well with them is just a drop in a bucket for them? So like, that is usually my frame when I'm looking for clients or looking for doing my prospecting. Who can I get the best success for that's going to not bat an eye at what I want to offer them?
Yeah, I've heard other people say that too, that sometimes the people that you're their Hail Mary or whatever, they're relying on you to like make it past the finish line on whatever it is that they're doing. Yeah, that's a lot more stressful situation to be in, that someone's just like, no, like I don't need the money. I'm just doing this because I want to invest in this specific thing, like newsletters or whatever. I agree. I think that to some sort of degree you might be attracting a different crowd maybe if like you do those things. But I understand the point of it if the people don't know you and it's just a way of like getting them over the ledge or whatever. And like a lot of people probably won't like use it for like example, like me and my buddy Scott, we're creating like a cohort for people for that are like going to start podcasting community, and that one I think we're doing like a like if you've joined our cohort for like a week and you don't like it, and there's gonna be like guest lectures and things like that, and there's software and expenses and things like that. But if they don't like it after a week, we're like, all right, cool, like you could have your money back. And that's partly because like we don't also want people in there that are like just not our people either. You know, like some sort of like there's sometimes where times where like people just don't vibe, they don't, they don't get along with each other. So I think having the right people also is important to whatever it is that um, you're doing. Your thing seems like it would be very time consuming to me. Like as far as like the writing part of it, is there a way like you've learned to like streamline things or to like get going like faster? Or do you use like Gemini or AI or anything like that to help you like write faster or anything like that? Or like how do you I guess keep organized and like not avoid burnout with like what you're doing?
Normally, the longest, most intensive part is usually the design and the lead magnet. That takes forever. I mean, just from research to getting a good design that works really well, that usually takes the most amount of time, and I start on that first. The writing is I do use Perplexity and Claude because I found that they're going to get you the best results and show you the most research at the same time. I use them to help me understand the voice of the person that I'm writing. And a lot of times I ask it to pull those things that I want to use out of the writing that they find in common that I've received from my client. And that helps out a lot to compress it. But once you get in a good cadence with someone, you're excited about it. Like I get really excited when I'm writing in somebody's voice and they come back to me and they're like, oh, this is awesome. This is exactly something that I would say. That charges me right up. That stuff really excites me. So I really enjoy spending time getting the writing to something that they like and that I get a good response out from the subscribers. So I guess to answer your question is yes, it is time intensive. And that's why you don't see a lot of people with an offer like mine because it is very time intensive.
The PS section seems like a great place to place your offers. It seems to me like a lot of, I guess, newsletters kind of talk about whatever story or whatever thing that they want to teach that week, and then like kind of at the end they kind of stack their offers in that like PS section. Is that kind of like what you've seen as well, or is that kind of like one way of looking at it?
Yeah, the PS section is always a great place to add that extra content because somebody scrolling all the way down, that's probably where they're going to stop. I don't always use it to put the offer in. I usually, yeah, it just depends on the situation. Sometimes it's like you can share a social media post or, share an update there that you really want them to see that they might get a lot of value out of, or that's also where you can introduce like referral programs if you're going to run one of them. That's a great place for it. Yeah, they're good. If you're going to get better results, you may just want to write a short sales letter if that's what you're really looking to do. If you've nurtured those people on your list, sometimes leaving those CTAs out is a better feeling, and then you can lead in with some story based call to action that lays out whether that's via testimonial or you pick out a problem that your offer solves and then you write a sales email, a short one. That's probably going to get you better results than having that offer in the PS section every week because it's more of identifying that problem so that that person can put themselves in that box for you to solve it for them, if that makes sense.
I think you're a fan of like the intro email and then like maybe like series of emails potentially over the first week. What's the point of that? I guess as from your perspective, is it to like kind of get the person used to like you being around, or like for the creators that use that tactic?
Yeah, there should be a 3 to 5 email welcome sequence at least. Um, Depending on the niche, generally always 3 to 5 because usually your welcome sequence will have the highest open rate of any of your emails, especially the first one. That one's going to have like 70 to 90% if it's optimized right. So people are going to be getting on that, reading it. And if you can continue to provide value over 2 or 3 days, they're going to be much more likely to continue to engage with your newsletter in general. And if you take them through a customer journey, let's say you want somebody to hire you for your podcasting offer, coaching offer, you can actually guide somebody through, okay, you receive the welcome email. This is what the newsletter is going to be about. The next email is going to describe your experience as a podcaster. The next email is going to describe someone that you took from zero to podcast and how they loved working with you. And then the final email is going to be that um, harder sale email. And not everybody's going to make it and read that last email, but the 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or however much traffic you're driving there, somebody's going to get there and they're going to say, this is for me.
I think I've changed my offer maybe like once or twice now, but I think that it's going to continue to evolve over time. So the way I'm thinking about it is maybe every so often when I come up with something new, I'll just have like a new offer, and maybe I'll have like a legacy offer, or maybe I'm just trying to wrap my head around my own creator journey as well. But like, how often are you like thinking about like new offers and new things to add to your stack? Obviously, I think that your thing is somewhat newer, so you're probably still like getting that like figured out the way you want it. But at some point, are you going to consider expanding on that, or how do you look at like, or is it going to be the same offer always, just like revamped and retooled over time?
I'm personally very happy with what my offer is at this point. It's just like getting the pricing like super duper dialed in. I'm very happy with what it is right now. So I think if anything, I will be adding or releasing some more information on like hourly calls or some type of power sessions that I really like to do with people. Maybe they don't need, a full launch or anything. They just need help with one thing or the other. When you find something that really works and that you find is rewarding your time the best, that's what you should stick with. And then you just need to find more people to get it in front of. And then the next step after that is like, okay, when am I ready to hire somebody else to start taking some of this over for me so I can make it into a bigger business? And like, I have a few VAs that work for me that do different things, not full time or anything, but there's going to be some time soon where I have enough clients that I can hire somebody to make that extra margin for me and be able to allow me to serve more people, help more people. And that's like really where my goal is with Lettercraft, is expanding past myself.
Is it a combination of LinkedIn and X that you're finding for leads out of curiosity, or do you suggest kind of just getting on as many platforms as you can that you're able to?
I don't suggest getting on lots of platforms. I think you should find one that works for you very, very well and double, triple, 10 times down on it. Because if you're doing it by yourself, it's going to be very stressful to put everything all out there while you're giving a good experience to your clients, and trying to live your life, as well. So I think picking one or two and sticking to that is a great idea. I am very focused on LinkedIn. I post every day there. I send tons of connection requests. That is where I've found the most success. I've also done a ton of networking, and I highly encourage anybody who has a business to get in networking groups and make networking a high priority, because people love to share, and that reciprocity works out incredibly well when you're being suggested to somebody else. And they may not need you, but they're probably connected to another business owner that does.
What about DMing? Are you DMing as well? Because I know a lot of creators, some of them do, some of them don't. Obviously, I think a lot of people probably find success in it. I just mentally drained, so I haven't really been doing it.
I send a lot of DMs just like as greetings and learning about people. I'll probably send like 2 or 3 a day, but I also am sending like 20 to 50 connection requests a day as well, in spurts. Like, I don't do it all the time. If your profile is set up to where somebody who is problem aware knows that they want to talk to you, when you send that connection request, DM, comment, like, they're going to come look at your profile and understand, okay, yeah, this is something that I could use. And you just have to find the right people, which is very easy on LinkedIn to get in front of.
Well, I appreciate your time, JC. Would you mind telling people, I guess, like what you're looking for specifically, as far as like what an ideal client looks like, as far as your product goes, and where to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I love working with business owners and founders that have a remarkable product that they want to get connected to their customers in a better way via email marketing. You can find my website, lettercraft.com. That's LETTR craft.com. I'm on LinkedIn. at Lettercrafter and X at Lettercrafter, but I post on LinkedIn every day.
I appreciate your time, JC. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeremy.